Okay, so basically we are finished with the main functionality of our Angular application because it just behaves as a front-end application should behave, right? So now you should never forget that our main goal is to teach you a framework such as Angular in a way that you can really use it in a real world, and that's very, very important from our side. So yeah, there are courses out there which maybe show you how to develop an application which is a little bit more interactive, but this, how we do it here, is exactly how you would do it in a real world application. You would connect your Angular application to a backend solution. Please never forget that. This is so much more important and useful than learning how to make a more interactive application where you can maybe drag and drop tasks and they get saved into a JSON file or whatever. It's really important that you learn the basics of Angular, like component services and how to display stuff and all of that, and then how to connect it to a web server. Even if it's only a fake web server like we did it here, that's absolutely no problem. It's an absolute valid solution, and in the real world, you would use a real database and the real backend solution instead. Great. So, as I said, we exactly know why we teach it you in that way. And if you have any questions regarding that, so if you feel like we are missing something or whatever, we are really happy to help you out and explain you why this is the content of this course and how you can proceed if you are interested, right? So, as I said, we have a course about Angular and ASP.NET Core, which is absolutely practical. You will develop a real-world application using everything, a front end using Angular and the back end using ASP with a real database and all of this. So we got such a course, which would maybe be your natural next step if you want to learn backend development too. Great. So now, why am I talking about this, right? So we are now switching to be a little bit more, in depth, to look a little bit more on other Angular functionality in the way you would design it. So you would now learn about extracting components. So we will reuse one of the components that we already created, which is actually our task list. And if we take a look here, task list component, you can see that we have a form here, right? So we got the task list and then we have the form. And we want to separate the form from the table because just think of it that way. Later on in your application, you maybe just want to show your table of tasks somewhere else, but you don't want to show that form that someone can add something. You just want to, display that element. And now what we want to do, we want to take that table part here, which is for displaying the tasks only, and we want to build a separate component only for this and then reuse it instead. So we are going to extract a component here. So as I said, this is something that you really want to do a lot of times using Angular, because Angular is meant to be, you want to have as many building blocks which are separate as possible, right? Because then you can really just use your library of components and just design and build your website or your application in the way you really want to have it without caring too much about the implementation of the data. Great. Now let me close that. It will get clearer once we are making progress here. So let's create a new or brand new component, and therefore I'm going to open a new PowerShell so that we can run some new comments. And again, I want to run ng, so Angular generate component ng c, and now let's give it a name. Let's call it task table, and we want to attach it to the module tasks / task as we did it previously. Oh, there's a mistake, module. I want to module that way. Awesome. So this should generate us a new component and attach it to the tasks module. Oh yeah, I just entered the wrong path. You just want to go and module tasks. Awesome. And now you can see on the left side, we got a new folder called task table. And inside of the app module.ts, you can see if you scroll to the very top, sorry, we're not looking at the app module. Just go ahead and open up tasks and then go into the task module. Sorry, here we got the task table component, right? So it got added here so that we can use it inside of our module. Awesome. So for sure, now again, inside of the new task table folder, we have a component with an HTML file, CSS, and again, a TypeScript file. Now let's open up the TypeScript file. So task table component.ts. Now let me just resize everything here a little bit. And what we want to do is we want to change the selector here from app task table to only task table. That's a little bit better to read in the end. Now let's cut out the table from tasks and then task component.html. So task list component HTML, right? And here you can see in line 24, we got that table. And we really want to cut out the entire table. So let's take it here, table. Right, up to the closing tag. Let's copy it. Let's delete it from here. Just keep in mind we added it after the form, right? So I got that copied and now I want to paste it inside the task table component, right? So go to the task table and task table component.html, and here I want to remove task table works, right? I want to Control V to paste the information in here. Now let's save. And as you can tell, we now have some compilation errors for sure. So let's go ahead and fix them. Go to task table component.ts. Now what we need to add here, first of all, let's go ahead and add task items. So import task item. There we go. Now we can create, you can see here, tasks and remove, right? So let's go ahead and add tasks. So under the constructor, we can just go ahead and say tasks is a task item array equals to a new empty array, for example. And then we can add a new method. Let's call it remove, and we want to remove a task item. There we go. So in that way, we should now see if we switch over, that task is still showing us something because it's an observable. So first of all, let's go in here and let's import in the task table observable again. So let's grab observable from RxJS. And for now, to make it work, switch over and let's remove the async pipe just for now. Great, so now let's get that started. But before, switch to the calendar component, go into the calendar component.ts. And here we got the error, the throw new error right from the last, well, sort of section. So let's just remove that error, because if we don't remove it, the calendar will for sure not load. Awesome, so let's switch to our application. Now let me pick a date here, let me switch to tasks, and you can see that the task list for sure is not getting shown because we removed it completely, right? So now we need to go ahead and add it to the template again. So go to task component, there we go, just a second, let me just close it, to task list component.html, there we go, task list component HTML, there where we just removed that initial table. Now, I mean, the names are pretty well easy to misunderstand. So we got task list and task table. This is why I really pay a lot of attention on what I say. So here we got the task list component, and here we for sure need to insert now the task table. Now for the task table, we created a tag. So let's take a look at that again. Go to the task table component.ts, and you can see the selector is task table. So what we do now inside of the task list is to insert the task table just in that way. Now let's save and take a look at our application again. Now you can see that it is still not showing. And why is it? Because we actually used it. Well, the problem is that inside of our task table.component.ts, right, it's loading an empty array. So we need to make that working. And therefore, and this is why this was now important, this is why we are extracting components, because we want to teach you how you can send data to a child and to a parent component. Because now we need to get the data from the service and all of that into the task table component right here so that we can load it. And therefore, we use the add input decorator, so add input binding.